Good morning. Thank you for joining me here in this little patch of daisies. They're just like bobbing along here. It's so sweet. It's kind of like tiptoeing through the tulips, but it's like dilly-dallying in the daisies. I'm sick. I'm recovering, I think, from an illness related to a lot of grief that I've been processing, and and also all the chemicals and toxins that they dump on us constantly. Because it's like you just can't get a regular old cold anymore. It's like a whole week-long situation, huh? I just spilled my coffee all over me. Great. So I'm not exactly well enough to be doing this, but I've been able to stay at a house, and I'm wrapping up my second week here. So I don't know, every day feels like a lot of pressure to just catch up and figure things out. I mean, there's no way to figure things out, right? If you're watching this on YouTube, apologies for my long absence. I am trying to get back to editing the footage from Spokane. I was in the middle of that when I just had a 1-2 grief punch hit me, partly because, well, I go into it a lot in my Substack, actually. So if you are just a YouTube watcher, I do post my videos also on Substack. So if you want to just follow the link there, I write a lot about the stuff I talk about here. And it helps me a lot to process by writing. So I'm very grateful to my little subscriber list, because I feel a responsibility to show up for them, and in doing that, it heals me, and that's a great relationship to have. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that have been going on over there. So if it feels like there's some back information that you don't know, it's probably on Substack, because I'm not gonna, I mean, I'll repeat some of it, but I've already gone very much in depth. So I'm kind of talking to people that are aware of both, I guess. And so the 1-2 punch with the grief was, as soon as I got here, you know how when you've been like just holding on so tight and just getting through life, and every day just like trying to keep your chin up and digging deep and not letting things get to you, and it's just like you feel like you've just been doing that for so long. It's like when you kind of land somewhere where you can just kind of like relax, it all sort of bubbles up. And as you know, I've been living in my truck off and on for 3 years now, and I've been out here for a while, and it grinds on me. It really grinds on me. I say that it's a choice because, I don't know, I guess we always have choices, but it's definitely kind of a last resort choice. And just the way the world's fallen apart, and the way that I've healed, and the things that I've been unable to accept or return to, or just put up with, to preserve all the work that I've done, all the clarity I've gained, all of the coherence. It's about being coherent, right? And so it makes it hard, like when things aren't aligned with like, just get a job. People are always like, just get a job. Why don't you just have a job? I'm like, I had a career that was taken from me when I was canceled, and it's a lot, you guys. I mean, and then when it's not aligned and I feel it immediately, and I'm like, it's going against literally my gut instinct, I'm just like I can't do that. And listening to our instincts I had to learn how to do that again. We just dissect it so much with our mind. We second guess, we doubt. We are like, oh, there's no facts. It doesn't matter. Like when your body's telling you something, it just doesn't matter. So I got here, and just kind of the grief overtook me. The first grief came up around just being sad that I didn't have the choice anymore about having a late in life baby, of all things, because I had some damage from a... Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Thing. And right before, it was November of 2019, so it was a little earlier, but put me into menopause early, I believe, and sterilized, you know, is what it's called, sterilization. And so I had a lot of grief and sadness about that, but then right on the heels of that grief was anger. A righteous anger, that something like that would be taken away from me. And then as soon as I wrote about it, I wrote it all out. I kind of went through it and I was like, oh, okay, it feels so good to just accept it, you know? And then I found out about the very mysterious death of a magic and spiritual teacher to a lot of people by virtue of his podcast. His name was Gordon White. His podcast was called Rune Soup. And he also ran a school of magic. So if you joined his membership, you got access to all of his courses. And he did a lot. He taught a lot of courses like tarot, fairies, land spirits, ancestors, sigils were his thing, magic, all kinds of, you know, all kinds of things, spell work, whatever, talismans, like everything. And his death just, I mean, it hit me. And so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm going to fill in a couple details, but really, if you're curious about what I'm saying, I wrote a big long thing about it. But it was like, you know, I had even broken up with this teacher, is the thing. And I wasn't all like, well, he got what he deserved. That's what happens when you're an asshole, you know. I was like, no. I was like, this is fishy, and he didn't deserve it. And yeah, I was kind of hoping he'd grow up, and, you know, but I was always kind of keeping tabs on what he was doing. And I just... the part I want to talk about today is I say that those things were like a 1-2 punch, right? It was a punch. It was like a gut punch in my solar plexus. Boom. So to me, like, I'm starting to realize as I'm getting strength with returning to my instincts and my intuition, you know, that these things, they correlate to the chakras, you know. Like when we have illnesses show up and things, it's like where we're depleted or where we have, you know, it's trauma or energetic knots, you know. So a 1-2 punch is someone taking your power. Like the solar plexus chakra is our power, our personal power. So it's a really important one. So it wasn't a heartache. I wasn't having heartache. I felt like it was a gut punch. That's an important distinction, because we're just learning, you know, how under attack we have been since all of human civilization. It seems like we were hijacked by outside forces right when Earth was just getting going. Long time ago. And the hijackers believe we're their property. And yeah. And we're all just kind of realizing now this is what's going on. And it's a lot to swallow. I said before, if you're aware of a historian who's kind of popular right now, Dr. Heather Lynn, she's talked a lot about just the whole ancient satanic parts of stuff a lot. And when I was reading her stuff, I kind of binged her for a little bit, and it's like you still have to metabolize what you take in, you know? Like, information doesn't just roll off of you. You know? That's why you gotta be really careful. I try not to, that's why I don't watch their news and stuff. And even with her, you know, she had a slightly altered, like, picture of, like, Trump with the alien in chains and stuff that he put out. And I was like, it's very dangerous to take in their images because they sit in your psyche. It's not just a small thing, you guys. And I left a comment even because I was like, it would be cooler if she would completely invert the image so we could see what's actually probably going on. Like if he was in chains and there was, you know, a gray leading him. Wearing a suit or something. That'd be funny. Or he's naked. Anyway, from reading her stuff, I was like, I just kept feeling like it was like I was trying to digest all the fuckery that she was talking about, and I felt like I was trying to choke down thumbtacks. Really. Not surprising. So when I got here, you know, I felt like a ball, a knot in my gut, and I felt a knot in my throat, like weird forming things, you know? This is like when energy starts to get stuck and pool, so you have to move it through. This is why I love yoga, because you're kind of dealing with it every day, you know? Oh, the sun's gonna start coming out. It's gonna get hot in a minute here. You can see the shadow of the camera. Anyway, and the shadow of the daisy. Anyway, you know, so digesting all of this has been a whole process. And I was really sick, where I do feel like I'm always kind of purging metals. Like, it's like I feel like I'm poisoned. But this time it was, you know, it's been all in my head. It's been like pressure in my skull and my sinuses. And this is even day 5 of it. And I still sound like this. The pressure has relieved, but it was like almost unbearable for 2 days. It was just like nothing was moving. It was like, and so I just wanted to share all this because, you know, a lot of times when our body is meant to naturally kind of blossom into higher consciousness, you know, so when your third eye is starting to open, or when your crown chakra is starting to open, it can feel like this pressure in your skull and your sinuses, like in my face, you know? I remember I was having like a big third eye opening thing, and I had all this like stuff in my temples back then. But this felt like it was more like related to my crown chakra. So, you know, there's always multiple things going on at once, right? And so I've been doing all the things, healing and processing my feelings, taking care of myself. I had a whole self-care day dedicated to my inner masculine, which was so fantastic. I wrote about that. Please go check it out. It's called Your Inner Warrior Needs a Bubble Bath. And I just recognized that like my inner warrior was kind of wounded. I was like just feeling a little trigger happy and just like, yeah, come at me, motherfucker. Like, just like, yeah, one more fucking thing. Yeah, I fucking dare you, you know, like. And so I was like, easy, just, why don't you just take care of yourself a little bit? And so I did. I thought of all the men who've made me who I am. And in my very crude way, I kind of like mimicked them and wore sweatpants and no shirt and learned how to open a can with a Swiss Army knife and clean my Swiss Army knife and all this stuff. It was a great day. So I encourage you to read that if you haven't. So there were a couple other additional things about Gordon that have been coming up related, because I was like, I'm operating on instinct with it, honestly, because, you know, what we're told has been, you know, hijacked for so long, and you have to really read between the lines and figure stuff out. And also, you know, hubris is a real thing, of course, but even within that, even if he was just like an egomaniac, you know, hell-bent on his own fame and glory, which I don't believe, but even if he was, I just think we've been fucked with so much. Like, somewhere in the pipeline there's fuckery. There's been something whispering in his ear to prioritize self over others, to, you know, it's like that is not God talking. And getting those things to shut up, you know, it took me a while, you guys. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of noticed that my head isn't swirling around with self-doubt all the time. I'm like dreaming, I'm imagining. It's like how I want to be. So this is why I've preserved myself at great personal expense, because I'm like, I just got all these like faculties back on, and they're great and they're better, and I feel more whole and more healthy, and it's got to be the way. There's no way that it's not the way. So what am I supposed to do now when I'm like, I'm 2 months behind on my storage rent? It's like everything I own is in there. My car insurance is late. I live in it. Like, I'm screwed, you know? And so I'm like, what am I supposed to do? But I'm like, every time I try to go back and just prioritize money, get serious, like, I'm gonna solve this problem. Like, it doesn't work. It absolutely doesn't work. And I know it doesn't work. And it makes me feel like shit, and it wears me out doing it. So I'm like, okay, it's madness. Stop doing it. So I did. I've just stopped doing it. I'm just living, and I'm, you know, just like fully in the mystery, just like, you know, and it's usually works out pretty good. It would work out better if more people were awake, because it's like, you know, people, I mean, I have to practice forgiveness a lot. There's, you know, I thought I had friends out here, and I'm like, and they're just like, oh yeah, you're in your truck? Oh, okay. I'm like, all right, you guys. Like, I would never let someone that I love just like, I would be like, do you want a driveway to park in? Would you like an extension cord? Like, can I make your life easier in any way? Anyway, of course, it's my choice. I make these choices. But there's some stuff about the Gordon thing that came up after I wrote. So I'm going to just kind of update that. So if you have been following both, great. One thing is, I went back and watched his last interview with Greg on the Higher Side Chats, which I couldn't even get through. I watch everything Greg puts out, but even when this came out, I think it was maybe 6 months ago or something, I couldn't even get through it. I tried, but I was, like I said, I had already broken up with his teacher, and he already rankled me. And like literally in the opening minutes, he was making all these like gay jokes about himself. I mean, and I said this in my piece, like, to the point that he's like talks about being gay so much that it is the equivalent of a straight dude who's like, I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay. It's like, no one cares, Gordon. Like, he has a partner and a farm. It's like, yeah, okay, you're gay. No one gives a shit. Anyway, so there's all these gay jokes about himself in the beginning. And then Greg misstates the name of his book. His latest book was Animistic. And Greg said anti-mystic. And I don't take those little slips as nothing. I was like, is that how he's functioning? Like, and so it made me add one more list. So I was spitballing in my piece about possible reasons for his death, far-flung reasons, you know, like conspiracy reason, any reason I could think of, from abducted by aliens to bitten by a snake to all of it. But I was like, I'm going to add one more thing to that list. What if he was a CIA equivalent? I don't know if they still operate the same way, but I have learned a lot about what they did in the 60s to my parents' generation. And just the fuckery within the music, and how most of those kids were pawns. And even if they were groomed, I mean, most of them had military industrial parents. And even if they were groomed into those positions, and even if they did become good musicians anyway, despite being operatives, and they were there to distract, and the CIA dumped a bunch of drugs into all of the protests around the Vietnam War. And, you know, the draft and all that stuff. So it was really life or death, you know, back then. I don't take this stuff lightly, you know? And I don't take culture lightly either. It's like, I've said many times, you know, just when I found out all about this, which, I mean, the first place I would point anyone to is Weird Scenes Inside Laurel Canyon, which you can find on YouTube. There's one woman who reads it out loud even. You know, but this guy spent years doing research about the fuckery and the music scene and entertainment scene that he just witnessed growing up in proximity to it. And then he got a mysterious cancer and died after his book came out. So I don't take this stuff lightly, you guys. It's definitely the pattern that people who speak the truth and are onto something, you know, kind of get disappeared sometimes. I don't think that's the reason not to speak the truth. I'll say that. I just think, I'm just pointing out that many have been sacrificed to bring us the truth. And the reason that I thought that the first thing that came to mind when Greg had the Freudian slip to say anti-mystic was that I was like, oh, is that how he functions as an anti-mystic? Like, he brought in kind of bad magic to scramble what was happening in the underground spiritual and magic community, which I do consider spiritual because a lot of it is a revival of kind of the stuff that witches were burned for, you know? So that was one thing. And I just want to also point out again, you know, that it was a gut punch when I looked at my grief for him. So I just think that that really tells me that they're trying to take our power again. So I had a very strong, angry reaction. Like, I felt like it was my little brother had gotten in over his head on the wrong side of the tracks and been killed for it. And yeah, maybe he had it coming, but those are thugs who fucking destroyed a lot of people, ruined lives, killed other people, totally ruthless. So it's kind of like, what are you going to do about it? I can't cross the tracks and just fight them by myself, but I can try to cut them off like deep at the root, cut off access to everything that they value, give them a taste of their own medicine. You know, so much of even my understanding about spirituality, you know, so much of it's hijacked. So it's like, you got to do a lot of work around it because we've been groomed into complacency. I don't trust people anymore who don't have anger. We should be angry. We should be angry. Anger is the first primary emotion. It is a motivating emotion. And there's a lot to be angry about. And you have to put it in the right place. I'm not saying just like go start punching people. I'm saying you have to like really be in your center and use the anger to fuel you. It's like it is. There's a guy who channels different beings, and it's funny because I actually broke up with him because of all this, because I was like, again, I'm tired of being ignored by millennials teaching magic on the internet who can't see me as a spiritually powerful person, or that like even if that I come in, they don't have eyes to see, right? They're younger, but they think that they know it all, and so they keep like just, you know, they're just like putting their stuff out. I'm done. Like, I broke up with a lot of people on YouTube after the process of this. It needs wisdom right now. Before I broke up with him, he was channeling Kali. And I've taken a class on Kali with Andrew Harvey before. You know, but she was saying that people are scared of her because of the images of her, like she has a necklace of like men's heads. She's like, you know, blood is squirting out. She's like usually standing on this one guy, blood squirting out of him like a fountain. She's got her tongue all out. She's like wild. And the story, like, and I need to go back and look at the story, but I do remember from the story that she was outraged. Like, the question is, what made her that angry? Not like, wow, look at this unhinged woman. Goddess, excuse me. But that there's a lot of work to do to restore them to their proper place in the pantheon of helping spirits, just like angels. I talked about this in the Substack. Also, similarly with Medusa, there's an astrologer, I think called Farstellar on Substack, who was talking about Medusa. And the story of Medusa was one of the first costumes I ever made for myself. But she was a very great beauty who was raped by Poseidon in Athena's temple. And Athena was pissed because her temple was defiled. And so she punished Medusa by turning her hair into snakes and making so anyone who looked at her would turn to stone. Now, again, we need to look at this. Athena popped out of Zeus's head. Athena is like a lab system shill, basically. You know, it's like figuring stuff out is like kind of difficult. You have to almost like invert everything and try to figure out what is actually kind of the right relationship there. But there is something about restoring the proper place of things and that righteous anger. And so when he was channeling Kali, she was saying that you put the anger on your fire, like that this is a fire, that you think of it as a piece of wood. To me, it was already so condensed. I was like, it's already charcoal. Like, I'm like, oh, it's a burn. It's like, oh, I've been for so long, angry. But that you use that to feed you, and that we won't make it if we don't restore fire to the equation. Fire has been the most suppressed of the elements and is the most foundational and essential. Even out here in the forest in Northern California, where there are wildfires, which many people believe are completely intentional, the thing that would fix the forest is more fire, right? It's like the low brush fire that keeps it clear. Campfires do an amazing job. People literally just like walk around and clean up debris on the forest floor, making a campfire. But we're not allowed to make any campfires anymore. No one could possibly be trained enough to like not start a whole entire forest fire. It's like everything, the hysteria and the shame and everything around fire is, again, intentional, and you have to invert it to see what's really going on. That it's the most foundational. That anger is so important, and you have to take action on it. You can't just like, it's not just like, oh, I'm angry and oh, I have to just let it go and be in peace. That kind of shit worked when we were just getting through Empire. It is not going to work to rearrange and fuck over Empire, okay? Like, this game is boring. The game is rigged. The board is rigged. The entire conditions around it are rigged and stacked against us. And it's a boring game. You know? That is something. So restoring your fire, related to anger, using it as fuel. This is This is the way, you guys. It's not like we're not going to get angry about stuff. It's not like you get to enlightenment and, oh, it's just like all great. No, it's like you actually have more responsibility. And this has been happening like as more and more and more of my senses turn on. It's like I can see what's like what animals, I'm communicating with them. I can see what's going on with them. I understand what they need. And it breaks my heart because I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. Like I saw a deer yesterday and was like, I'm in a cage here. There's like a big fence, right? And then the garden's like in another fence. And it's like, who's being kept out? I feel like I'm being kept in. Like, I'm like, these fences. And the deer looked at me because it had to, like, I knew that it was trying to go there to cut a diagonal across, and it couldn't. It had to go all the way down there, all the way over there. And I just kind of, through looking at this deer, knew what was going on, that it was like annoyed. It was looking at me, and I was like, I wish there was a way in too. There's like there's not even a gate over there. So, you know, as these like things come on, it's a lot of responsibility because I'm like, I know. And I'm like, I don't know how to fix, like, I would take down the fences. But it's not my place. I have to just sit here like I'm a caged animal sometimes, you know? Even with the bears. For years, I'm like, you guys, why are we exiling the bears? Why do we teach people have like guns and cameras and like all this stuff for the bears? And it's like the bears, first of all, they respect boundaries and they do have ironclad memory. They remember insult, injury, and kindness. So, you know, you be nice to a bear and also they remember it. It's just like all of the hysteria, and what we do to one, we do to all. I would say this all the time to people that would use bugs, you know, like get cans of spray out and stuff. I'm like, there's a circle of hell where you're treated exactly how you've treated others. So, you know, just be careful. Like, just be careful. So that was one thing I wanted to say. And there is some weird stuff going on. I saw, so are these aliens? I don't know. But there was some weirdness the other day. I was sitting in the rocking chair on the porch. I'd just been cleaning. And kind of a big bug. It was like this big. And it was gray with blue. Kind of just a real nice, what would I say? Somewhere between a light, like a cobalt and cerulean with white is how I would make the color. But then with gray. So it had like this blue and gray. And it was like this big. And it was not a bug I had seen before. But I was just sitting there in a chair. And this like kind of loud thing comes flying by. And then it hits the post like it wasn't driving right. And then it just dropped to the ground. And I was like, are you okay? And it looked at me. And I was like, are you rattled? Like that was a hard hit. Are you all right? And I was like, oh, what are you? I've never seen you before. And it was just looking at me. And I was like, and I looked out over at the daisies down there. And I saw that there was a couple other of them. And they were like coming on top of the thing. I was like, oh, are you guys... sorry, the phone died. Had to move by some different daisies because the sun's moving. It was too hot and bright. Anyway, so I was telling you about the weird bug thing. So it flew into the post, fell. I was asking if it was okay. I was asking what kind of insect it was. I looked out over these daisies right here, and I saw first a couple, it was like 3 or 4 of similar bugs. And so they were like going on top at first, and there were some kind of butterflies around. So I was like, oh, are you a pollinator? And then I saw them hanging from underneath of the daisy. And I was like, are you a predator of pollinators? And I'm asking, so I'm like looking, trying to understand what kind of a bug we're talking about here. And it was just looking at me the whole time. I mean, obviously it just clocked itself pretty hard in the post. But yeah, it was just such a weird experience. I think I got up and left before the thing flew away. But anyway, so that was like a weird thing. I'm just reporting these things back because I want you to be aware of what it looks like when your senses start coming online. you know, which is a natural thing that should happen. That's what I was saying about the anger, right? That it's like we're not going to get out of this without using it as the fuel that it is. I mean, there are different muscles needed to endure than there are to fight and make change. And I'm not talking about like fighting, right? Like disenchantment is fighting. You can enchant things with your attention and focus, and you can disenchant them just by moving your focus to something else. But it's not just that you take your focus away, because then if there's nothing to focus on, right, you could still be manipulated, or you're not. It's just not how it works. You have to replace the thing you're trying to get rid of with something better. That's why I'm always saying your creativity. That's the thing to focus on. In the creativity, you know, I'm always thinking and daydreaming about a better world, or fixing things up, or how I would do it, or it's meditative. It's the dream. It's like the daytime dream time. You know, when you are just making your things. It's very important time. It really is. So the mystery with Gordon is still not unraveled, but everything is on the table right now because we don't know. So we have to be, you know, really smart and not just be like, oh, it's just another death. It's so sad. It's like, yeah, it's sad. And also this is like the same pattern that I find to be absolutely disgusting. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people who are really making big influence in the culture. Culture is the soil our consciousness grows in. Like taking them out, you know? And like I said, even if, let's say he was a CIA plant from the beginning, like before, you know, not that they got to him later, but let's say he was one from the beginning, that, you know, that I see his reluctance in it. We see this, we saw how it tore up John Lennon. Like when you look back at him and his actions after getting through weird scenes inside Laurel Canyon and getting through Mike Williams' whole Paul is Dead channel, you know, which is only even the start of it, really, because how it all worked is very disturbing. And yes, John and Paul made a Faustian bargain. And John had to live with the consequence of that, you know? And they still got him in the end. This is like the thing, you guys. So it's like, that's why even if that is the case, I still have compassion. I'm still like, he's still our brother. It's not like he was a traitor if he was like manipulated and forced into doing that, or even took a Faustian bargain in some sense. It's like, that's just youthful ignorance, and it's unfortunate, you know? But again, it's like, it's still your little brother, right? And that's like the worst. And I don't even think that's what happened. You know, I'm like, I think really highly of him. So I'm like, shouldn't we be treating this like an attack? Because everything that we know now, like, put it into practice, you guys. It's going to take different muscles to change the game. We're not just getting through the game. We're trying to actually like heal at the source. We're trying to cut it off like at the source, not just through one thing. Like, yes, everyone fights it in their own way, but it's the meta, like how we do one thing is how we do everything. So, you know, how we treat bears, like that's a part of us that we're doing that too. But I immediately was like, I take this seriously. I make it look fun and ridiculous, and yeah, I tell jokes and I have a dirty mouth and it doesn't look like your normal spiritual teacher. Like, I get it. But this is also the thing, because you don't know who has the brightest light inside, you know, unless you are trained, unless you have eyes to see. So you want to get those eyes to see. So I think that's basically all I wanted to say today. Just give you an update. I am still dealing with this illness, and I have like 3 more days here. So yeah, and I don't know what's coming next. It is like minute to minute, hand to mouth, bank to tank, like, you know, and it's so insulting. It's like the relative value of things makes no sense. Like someone joined my Substack private membership for, I don't know, $79 or something, I think, for the year. And that was how much it took to fill my truck, because gas is $6 here. I was like, oh, it's like a year of my spiritual wisdom behind the curtain is equivalent to 1 tank of gas right now. And I was like, I have to be careful not to let myself do that kind of math on myself, and to just be like, that's how crazy things are right now. That has nothing to do with me and my value. And I can barely even think about money. I don't know how we're going to do this, you guys. You don't, when you're doing magic, you don't focus on the how, you focus on the what. And it's like that. Like, I am in total trust. I'm just also very clear. Like, the more I wake up, the more I heal, the more I process the stuff and digest it, the angrier I am, the more fire that I have. And I'm so happy to feel fire again. I made a fire. I literally got up at 5:30 this morning and burnt a bunch of old things and papers and things. I had been building this fire all week. And it was just kind of little stuff. It was all my snotty tissues from this, whatever the hell this is. Like, just so much weird stuff in there. And I was just like, at 5:30 this morning, I burnt it. Because I was like, and I laid by it for like another, 2 hours until I got up. Would you like a candy? I got these at the grocery outlet. They're Korean ginseng candy. Usually I get the ginger, but I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about ginseng. I also was like, oh, it'd be nice to have something to share with my ukulele class at the library this week, which I've been taking. And so just let the record show, or the age at which you start giving out hard candy, for me, has been 51. I shared ginseng hard candy with all my friends at the ukulele class at the library. It is time to stand up, It's not a time to not tell the truth because people telling it are getting disappeared. It's like an I am Spartacus kind of moment, where if everyone's telling the truth, the lie has nowhere to live. So I'm replace it with something better. I've deepened, of course, my spirituality, my faith, my relationship to Jesus, Yeshua 12. So check out the Substack. It's free. I don't withhold any of the good stuff. If you just sign up for the free level, you get emails from me, and that's it. If you like the Substack app too, it's there. So I'll be back soon. Hopefully I can finish editing those videos. All right, lots of love. Mwah. Love you. Mean it. Bye.